And we're the boys.
Yeah.
Oh, we're the boys.
Boys.
We're the boys.
We're the boys.
We're the boys.
We're
And
the
Anna
boys.
is a boy, and Mitch is a boy, and Chris is a boy, and Tim is a boy. And together we're the boys and the boys.
Here we are to a new podcast.
Of the boys.
The boys.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. So I was
We
I
are
was
drinking
upstairs. I was walking
Caution.
Yeah.
and I saw this really awesome thing.
Uh-oh.
It was it was like shining. It was like glaring in my eyes.
Was it a fridge?
So half of that. And I kept walking, and I saw. So I walked toward the shining glare, and well, I picked it up.
And then what'd you do?
Yeah.
What was that?
There's like a 50% chance it's going to be a clown.
Or a pineapple chihuahua.
So I picked this item up that was glaring in my face.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, what was
Obviously because of the light above me.
What was the item?
And
What was the item?
so I had this glaring because of the light shining off of it. So so without the glaring part, but I had the item, right?
Yeah.
So I had that in my hand.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what'd you do with it?
And then what happened?
And
Then what happened?
And then what happened? Yeah, the item in your hand.
He's just stopped. He doesn't know where to go.
Well,
And then what happened?
And then.
And then.
then I bought it.
Oh!
But that's a good story.
So I started coming downstairs,
And then what happened?
thinking about all of you guys.
And then what happened?
Yeah, I feel special.
So I brought it.
And then what happened?
I got really hungry.
No!
What'd you do? What'd you do with it?
Well, I kept walking, obviously,
Oh, okay.
because I loved you guys.
Yeah.
So I kept walking with this item.
Yeah.
Everybody would want this item.
Yeah.
And then what
What was
happened?
that?
And so I was walking, and I was coming really close to you guys.
Yeah.
I was just right around the corner,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Right there beside you.
Yeah.
I thought about you one more time,
Yeah.
and then to surprise you, I opened it,
Yeah.
and
Oh!
and I got really hungry.
No!
So I ate it all.
And
You
Chris
actually
just.
should have stuck it in your mouth.
And then Chris swallowed all of the nuts.
We have
Because that makes it better.
white cheddar dill pickle, double coated peanuts for
Yeah, we
Sheri
do.
Berry right there. Put it in.
Oh, and I will share.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Boys Podcast. I cut out that entire beginning.
I'm
Yeah, it
going
wasn't-
to share.
Aww.
Yay! So then the clown entered the store. All right, so guys, I have a question.
Hey! Oh, you have the lid on. Okay, yes.
We need this on video. Oh, I was about to drink the nuts. So I faked drinking the nuts with like a cap on it when she looked. And then I took the cap off. She laughed.
Tim.
Oh, it's like two.
Melts on
And then
that.
I actually tried to
Alright.
drink it by accident.
Um,
Crunching sounds in the background.
yeah.
Yay, we brought it back.
Sheri's.
Love you, John.
Yeah. Sorry for the crunching.
So, this podcast, we're about to talk about
Something, hopefully, because I don't know if anyone's still listening out there.
But that's the description of our podcast.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about something, hopefully.
Is anybody listening anymore?
I don't even know.
Are we here just alone speaking on this
You
radio
know-
podcast?
Let me let
We
you
are.
guys
We're calling
know
out
something.
to anyone that's left out there. Come to Sanctuary.
Come to
Find
sanctuary.
safety.
Come to
You don't
Sanctuary.
realize it, but we are speaking this way because we are surrounded by zombies.
We will keep you safe here at
Are you
Sanctuary.
making a Borderlands reference?
Ignore that noise in the background. It was nothing. The noise. Yeah.
No, I think it was Walking Dead that I was referring to.
And I was referring to Borderlands.
Okay, if
okay.
anybody is actually listening to this, comment #Sanctuary.
#Sanctuary. We're actually going to
Hashtag the
disable
boys
comments.
sanctuary.
Yeah, there we go.
/nuns.
Slash nuts?
Nuns.
Nuns.
No, nuts. No, I was referring because they all hide in their own little clubs, right?
What?
Like saying
Nuns.
Nuns are very known for hiding in clubs, for sure.
No,
I think
they're
you're thinking
out,
about Sister Act.
the little buildings, you know, where they're out in the middle of nowhere.
Convents. Are you thinking about convents?
No, like the monks.
Convents! Nuns!
like
They're not
they're
Sheri, they're not condoms, they're little buildings. Okay.
No, you don't have to take it that way. So no, like the monks.
Yeah, convents. They live in convents.
Yeah, don't they live in no things like that?
Yeah, and
That's what I
monasteries.
thought. Yeah, monasteries.
They're little buildings, okay? I'm no longer willing to hear it from any other name. They live in little
buildings out
In the middle of nowhere.
Little buildings.
It's just fascinating.
Is it?
As she rubs the little
All right,
dog
quick,
with
someone
that.
come up with a topic.
Live life with flavor.
Okay, so how to live your life with flavor, Mitchell? What would it mean to live your life with
No,
flavor?
I got it. That was awesome, guys.
We were just hit with the Holy Spirit.
What's your awesome idea?
So Mitchell, what does it mean to live your life with flavor?
Hold on, no, it's joking. No, so
So I went up
Your
there.
turn. Can this be the whole podcast? Chris being like, wait, no. So
Chris is like, I've got to speak now.
this is
No, I know you guys are going somewhere.
I got it.
Topic. I got it.
I got it. No, it was Come on, what is this?
my
What
favorite
is this?
podcast.
It was like something about relaxing, enjoying and relaxing. Okay, enjoying, relaxing. What energizes you?
That
Like
doesn't feel like
at
it
all.
should have taken that much effort.
it kept disappearing for the joke's sake.
Yeah.
What do you mean by energizes?
So like, what fills you up? Like, what's something that's like, you know, when you've had a long day or whatever. Like what?
Sleep for sure.
Yeah, well, that's definitely a one. And then like,
Beer.
what's fun?
What's fun?
What's fun that you know energizes you? You know what do you really enjoy? Well, sorry, Tim, we can't just say that choice. Stop being exclusive.
What energizes us / makes us have fun when we are out of energy, or when we were overspent, or
Yeah, like like me right now, when you're drained and you're tired.
conversation.
Conversation, guys. That's
No,
definitely.
that's the opposite for me.
Guys?
I didn't say for you.
Aww, like that?
Oh, look at them little lovebirds.
Hey!
Wait, though, ruin the moment.
Yeah, well, this is Luke's answer. Is he likes to
okay.
have his hair
Oh.
fingers run through his hair. He finds it very relaxing.
See, I
Really?
like putting.
But is
my
that
fingers in
energizing? That's
Sorry,
Oh,
I
that's
thought
not
you were having
energizing.
a separate
Energizing?
conversation.
Okay. Let's see. It's in a can. It's upstairs. It's called an energy drink.
There you go. He
Yeah.
likes to get a head rub while chugging.
Well,
an
we know who
energy
the
drink.
snarky one is.
Wait, what?
A Starkey one? What?
snarky.
The
Oh.
snarky one.
I don't get it.
Well, it's true. Those do energize you.
It's okay.
If I have a lot of like cleaning and stuff I have to do and stuff I don't want to do, I'll take an energy drink and then I'll feel like doing it because I'll have energy.
Yeah, but then you get a big crash later.
Yeah, you do.
For
I
me,
find that it-
for me, and not Tim, but for me, but definitely not Tim.
Stop clicking my
But
buttons.
it is a thing that energizes me, but it does not energize Tim, and Tim needs you to know that.
Yeah.
Is conversation. Conversation is something that energizes me, but not Tim. When, because I find that when I have conversations, even if I'm
I just
tired,
dumped a hole in the couch.
I can stay up
Look.
until like 3 a.m.
Oh
just
my
talking
God.
to someone
I know, I dumped
about
it.
Can get a
anything.
pic-
Like we are right now.
But does that help you feel energized? Like when you leave the conversation, it's like, you know what, I could handle life right now. Or does it make you be like, oh,
Well, in
it's
the
time for
conversation,
bed?
energized.
Okay, but in life, does that energize you?
Like
Does that recharge you? So when you
well,
leave,
really
you're
good
ready?
conversation for sure. Like, here's the thing: if I like talk to someone, like you and me,
I have to vacuum.
sometimes we'll talk about like invention ideas, and we'll be like, "Oh man, this is really cool." And then from that, I'll be really energized and like get really creative from it, and be like, "Oh my goodness, I really want to do things,"
Like,
and it's good
totally dumb.
and stuff.
It's dumb.
That's true. Okay.
Oh, excuse me. But after it, you'll just like crash.
No, I find that after a
Technically,
conversation
after
with
everything
Mitchell,
that energizes you, you'll crash.
No, but that's the thing. This will energize you. Not in the moment. It will refresh you. Like what refreshes you.
read my Bible.
A really good conversation.
So then, like, you know, after that, like an hour after and stuff, you'll.
An hour after you drink an energy drink, you're gonna crash.
Well,
If you're
Mitchell,
really tired, you're gonna crash.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, I have a question. If there was a certain part of your body that you could not feel pain anymore for the rest of your life,
Ooh.
what part of the body would it be?
My
My
heart!
heart.
Me and him just high-fived.
It's like
I disagree.
for me, it'd be no more pain in my back.
Your
Because of
back.
all the-
Is that mostly where you feel pain? That
Yeah.
explains it then, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Suddenly your foot will feel the most pain, and you'd be like, man, I really wish I had trust my foot.
Ah.
Yeah, back pain is brutal when
Tell
you
me about
have
it.
it.
Every
It's-
time I sleep, I wake up with back pain, bro.
It's because I broke his back.
Multiple times.
I was giving him a massage by standing on his spine,
oh
and then
my
he told me
gosh.
to jump on a spot because they thought it would help. And I was like, no, it's just going to hurt it more if it already hurts. And so then I jumped on it, and I heard his crack, and he couldn't.
Oh,
Yeah, and it wouldn't leave for weeks. He had to sleep.
Good
He couldn't
Lord.
sleep on his back anymore.
To be fair, though, both of them have hurt my back really badly. He made it crack, and Chris gave me such a big massage that it was just so painful for like 3 weeks.
I
And
remember
was
that
like,
massage.
"Oh, I don't like it." But also, like, I don't blame any of them for how my back is right now. I don't know what makes my back the way it is. But, like, the mattress I sleep on in Hamilton, like, I sleep on it, like, when I go to sleep, it's fine. When I wake up, I'm like, oh, my back.
Aw.
But I wouldn't choose my back,
You
because I can
should
deal
get
with
it
that.
scanned.
You
'Cause-
probably should. You probably should have after
You
you
nearly
jumped on
fell
it. You heard
over.
the crack.
and it kind of gave out on him in college.
It actually did. I used to do this thing. I'm going to stand up, but this isn't going to help the podcast. So I was walking to school, and this happened twice. I was walking to school, and as I was walking, suddenly my upper body, and it came from my back, felt like it didn't have any support and was going
What?
to fall anyway. And I, like, stopped, and I, like, stood still, and I, like, didn't want to move, and I was taking small steps. And I was, like, near the school, so I, like, went, and I found something to, like, lean on, and I, like, held myself there, because I felt like if I leaned any way, I would just, like, collapse, because it felt like there wasn't anything properly supporting me. Like, it felt like I couldn't move any direction, and I hold my body still.
Okay, seriously? I mean, I know you're young and you think you're invincible, but as you get older, that's going to bother you more and more.
Oh, for sure.
Until it
So,
actually
you
breaks
should
and
actually
you're
get that
paralyzed
checked
for
out.
life.
But he can't. He would have to pay for it, right?
You have health care.
No, he doesn't because he's over 20.
No, but like, OHIP would cover.
OHIP covers
OHIP.
some of it.
But it's not my hip.
Ontario
If it's something-
Health Insurance Program.
If it's something that's like now, like it's an emergency, they cover everything.
Like people in the back.
So you go in,
and
and
if
you're
it's
just
not
like,
an emergency, he's screwed, Tim.
like, yeah, but that's why he should have went when his back almost broke. And so if anything,
But if you were to go to your doctor now, like your GP, and ask for a referral, and just say, like, this is what I experienced, you could get x-rays for free, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I would, if I could have a part of my body feel no more pain,
it'd be his heart,
it'd be my testicles, because then I would be unstoppable.
Unstoppable?
then that would mean women are unstoppable.
Yeah.
That
I mean, here's the-
completely deflates you.
You're not wrong.
You don't have a weakness,
But you're
is
not
what you're
right.
saying.
Yeah, because and also I'd have a great party trick.
People just kick you over and over.
Although I probably wouldn't have children still, because it's not like it doesn't affect me, just as that it doesn't hurt. Actually, that's a very bad idea. I probably should take that back. Now that I think about it. I'd have it be my tiny toe that everyone always hits. You know, like the pinky toe or whatever. Because hitting your pinky toe is the worst. And if you never felt pain there again,
just cut it off.
Okay, Thanos. Sorry.
Balance.
Everyone who's ever seen anything might. I don't know.
I could see that, because like I hate stubbing my toe, and it's so bad.
Yeah.
So bad.
Totally.
What if it's like if one part of your body, and then a person's like, my skin. I'd like it if my skin didn't feel pain.
My skin.
Well, there is a disease of that. The problem is, you know what's fatal about the disease?
It's that because they can't recognize when they're in pain, they can't recognize when something's bad, so they can accidentally like touch a burner or something and not realize they're in pain, and then like completely scar themselves.
Or they're at work and they cut themselves on a blood vessel, and you can bleed for a day without knowing if you don't see it.
What we're trying to say, guys, is pain is good. Lean into it and like love the pain.
Because it tells you what's wrong with you.
That's right.
Everyone who has
laughing hysterically at that. Because it tells you what's wrong with you.
And then I was like,
pain is hilarious.
You feel pain, you're a loser. But if you feel pain, you are a no. We also accept people who feel pain. Sometimes. I think it's good to feel pain. Actually, this is a good conversation to jump into instead of both conversations that we could have had. Lots of people don't like feeling things that they consider negatives. For example, sadness or pain. And my question is, are those bad? And I don't think they are. I think they're actually good things, because there are times that I get sad and gloomy and I like listen to sad music, and it is I feel important. And by lots of people running away from negative feelings or pain, I feel like they aren't getting the full benefit that those things have to offer.
I totally agree.
And even like pain, because that's more so referring to sadness, but even pain, like people are like, oh, why do I have to go through this pain or temptation or anything? I think that those are the points when, like, I feel like if you not give into it per se, as far as being like, I'm fine with this, but if you don't let it be what defines you, like, in other words, if you are in a painful circumstance and you're not like, I'm in a painful first circumstance, woe is me. If you're instead like, I'm going through pain, but okay, I feel like you can grow way more as a person. And pain leads to growth. 100%.
No pain, no gain.
But more pain doesn't mean more gain.
No, that's true.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Because I think, like, there's, like, sort of this expectation that you grieve a certain way. You have a certain number of days to get over something.
Yeah.
And it's like, everybody is wired differently, and everybody grieves differently and feels pain differently. And I think, like, being honest with yourself. And what Judy said to me was, like, really, this is kind of how I define, is, like, if you're crying, sometimes you need to have a good cry, because it actually completely releases you of, like, pent-up emotions, pent-up frustration. And it's, like, it's refreshing. It can refresh you. Like, I feel good after a good cry. But there's a point that you reach where you know that you're crying because you need to, and then there's that point where it's like, oh, I can stop, or I can continue to cry in self-pity. Yeah, and like, she says, that's the point where you need to stop. And ever since she told me that, anytime I have cried, I have recognized that point. When I know I can stop, but I still kind of want to cry because I want to feel bad for myself. And that's where you need to, like, pull yourself up and go, okay, we're done now. Suck it up. Get going, you know?
I feel like it's the same thing as the difference between, like, self-care and selfishness, where, like, when you have to cry because you have to let out those emotions, that's caring for yourself. That's making sure that you can deal with something. Right. But when you want to do it out of, like, a pure stubbornness of, like, no, I want to feel bad for myself, that's when it becomes more about you instead about you trying to heal.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But I think it's also gives you an appreciation for when things are going good and you're happy. I think that you can't really understand true happiness unless you felt sad.
Yeah. In fact, I have a funny thing that I read to Tim once. When I was one of my lowest points in my life, where I just was like, I'm the worst, I had a notebook and I wrote everything that I was like feeling, but I did it in like this weird
I want to say poetic, but it wasn't good, so I don't feel confident saying poetic.
Right.
But it was in this, like...
He's a poet.
It was, like, in this weird third-person way where I was referring to myself as, like, comparing myself to different characters.
Right.
And calling myself, like, sinful and, like, the worst person type thing. And in...
that he's a poet.
And for, like, 7 entire pages, I just wrote terrible things about myself and how much I hated myself and all that type thing. And I needed to do that to, like, deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can go back and look at that and recognize, like, how terrible I had felt at that time and, like, one of the worst things I went through. And I can, one, laugh at it because it's silly. But also, I can, like, look at that and go, I'm not there, but I can recognize that I've been there.
Yes.
And I can appreciate where I am now because of that.
Totally.
And I feel also that if I'm in those moments when I feel bad, I feel like I can also look at that and recognize that I've felt the same way, and therefore it's a thing that will pass, and that type of
you
thing.
were okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally. That is so true.
Me and Kayla have been talking about this, and like, especially with the laments from the trauma healing course that Debbie was talking about.
Nice. Did you both do it?
And, well, I'm starting to.
Nice. That's so good.
Like Kayla thinks that when you write something like that, and then when you go back to it, you're like
re-going through it,
and she thinks like you kind of don't want to go through that again, and just like let it all out, get it off your chest, and then not go back to it. But like,
some people find it very cathartic to burn it.
Yeah, I find that kind of like with you, when you go back to it, and you're like, wow, that was me back then, right? Some things, especially with like the stuff with my dad, like I feel so satisfied when I take the piece of paper and like burn it. Like I'll light it, I'll do whatever, and just I don't know.
There's something to physically and therefore metaphorically like letting something go.
Oh yeah.
And letting it like pass on and I feel like the reason people do those type of things is because by doing an action of something, and this is where like traditions I think come from. Yeah. By doing it in action, it helps you to get through it emotionally and that type thing. And maybe I don't get through things. Maybe that's why I hold on to it.
Well, yeah, but maybe at the same time...
But I feel like the reason I don't do this... Sorry, go ahead.
You want to watch out, though, because for each different thing, there's certain amounts of... It depends on the situation, because in some situations, you may want to let go, so you do that action to, like, burn it, and you're, like, helping work through something on the inside. But also, you don't want to, like, say everything that you write down. You don't want to go back and kind of, not meditate, but, like, something like like, go through and, like, read through it again. If you don't want to do that, you want to watch that you're not wanting to do it because you want to avoid thinking about the past. Right. Because there's something from each situation that you can learn from. And if you're writing it down to help you get through it, and once you get through it, you want to forget that it ever happened, then that's a problem too, because you're avoiding.
Well,
and avoiding can lead to other problems, right? Because there might be a reason that you don't want to go back and read it because there's something that you haven't dealt with. Yeah. And so then you don't want to bring it up again. You want to avoid it. You want to... Yeah. And so, like, I've noticed that about certain things in my life, like a poem that I wrote when I was in a dark place, and I didn't want to read it again because I knew it would bring up things. But then when I did read it, I realized there is still this thing that's inside of me that I'm working on. It was expressing in there, but I didn't want to bring it up again because I knew it would reveal that I'm still working on some of those things. Right. You know? And so, like, at the same time, like, letting it go is healthy, but bringing it up is also healthy, and like, but it's all situational, I think.
But and it all depends, because like, you know, I've got 20 years on you guys. Like, you're still in your little 20s, and you'll notice, like, as you get older, like, some of the things that you thought you dealt with will come up in different ways, and totally. Maybe not the ways that you are expecting, but they will keep coming up. And I think there comes a point when it's like your brain like recycles this certain similar events over and over, but present themselves in different ways. And I have come across that multiple times where I'll have like somebody who just really, really irks me, and I can't figure out why. Like I'll be like, why is this person bugging me so bad? And when I actually look into it deeper, it will have something to do with something from my past that was maybe a characteristic of somebody that bullied me or something, that I'll be like, man, I thought I was over that ages ago. But it's so it's still implanted a little bit in my brain that it comes out in different ways. Mm-hmm. But as soon as you recognize it and go, oh, okay, that's what's bugging me, then it goes away. Like it's like the more often you recognize it, then it just kind of goes away and disappears on its own. Yeah. If that makes sense. Like, and then you can reach a point where it's not something you're trying to forget. It's that your brain just doesn't really need it anymore because you've dealt with it, you've moved on. So you're not trying to avoid it. It's just it stops coming up because it's no longer an issue. So like, you know, like I feel like there's some things that I've reached that point where I'm like, I'm okay with thinking about it because there's not lies behind it that I'm still believing. There's not anything still painful about it. There's not a lesson I still need to learn from it. I've learned everything I can from that. And so a thing that might have been painful for me to even think about before, and I would want to avoid, I can now think about it just like I would think about, you know, what cereal am I going to have for breakfast? Like it's there's no different in terms of the emotions that it elicits. So I think that's when you know that something is like good and done, is when you can think about it without it eliciting any kind of emotion either way. And then it's just like another, I don't think you ever fully forget anything. You know, I mean, I think some things just stick. And like, do you guys ever have that where like something really, so have you guys ever had this, like, I don't know if I've tried to explain this out loud before, but like a thought, like it seems completely random, but a thought from your childhood or something that replays itself, like it'll pop into your head. Like for me, one example, I have a dozen, but one example is just in high school, walking past the hockey rink, and I was on my way to my friend Crescenda's house, and I remember like the exact motivation for walking past the hockey rink, even though I'd walked past it like a dozen times. I get this flashback of walking past it that day on our way to her house, and I'm like, why do I keep remembering this? Like it's so weird that I have this memory that seems completely indifferent.
In the I do have one of those. Yeah. Actually, I just thought of.
It means nothing to me other than the fact that it just keeps popping up.
You guys used to live in another house, and if you guys walked all the way down your street, there's this weird like
building.
Well, not a building. It was like a outside rink of some kind that you guys could like walk around, right? I forget what it was. I don't know if it was an ice rink or something else. I don't think it was an ice rink, but
it was a dry,
like a roller
hockey
blade.
rink.
Yeah, and for some reason, I remember there being walls. And I remember one time we went down there for some reason to do something, and I remember just like walking around one of those walls looking for you. And that's it of the memory. That's it.
Like it's just, it seems so weird that sticks. Like you remember that on a pretty regular basis.
Not all the time.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like you're thinking about it night and day. But it resurfaces every once in a while.
Sure. Yeah.
Like why? Those are the things that are.
Think about like yourself in that situation, and from using your brain now, what would you feel like?
I needed acceptance. Tim wasn't there. I don't know, man. I really have no idea.
Think about it. Like, with your head
what do you
today,
feel when you think about the memory?
Think about from third person.
Confused. I'm like, I don't know where Tim is.
Well, what else? Just try thinking.
Words.
Thinking about it,
Words coming out of mouth.
No.
I know. I feel the same way when I try to think about that. I don't feel
when did you start having this pop into your head?
What would someone
after it happened?
No, like the past couple of years.
I mean, it's not a pretty regular thought. It's just something that I think of when I think of like your old place, or when people bring up things like thoughts from the past, and I'm like, oh, that's a thought.
So somebody has to bring up the subject of thoughts.
Sure.
That.
There is one thought
that's just pop in my head randomly. I'll be like thinking about anything else, and it'll just pop, and I'm like, why am I still thinking about this?
You remember that little elementary school that me and Ashley I went
Adelaide
to in Hamilton? Mm-hmm. For some reason, I remember, like, I can't remember when. I still remember, like, driving by, and it always pops back into my head, like not crazy amounts, but like I remember looking at it, seeing it, and then like I think it was 2 days ago. I remember popping it back in, and I was like, "What?"
Your memory is that you were driving past the school?
Yeah.
Interesting. Now,
like,
were you at
I had a couple of like memories from there. Like I remember the one day I had broken my nail and it had popped up, and Dad rushed over there from work, and we raced to the hospital, and like anyway.
Oh wow! Well, that makes sense why that was sick.
I remember being bullied a couple times.
I remember different things, but I know the reasons why I remember them. I mean, and they come up in situations when I am thinking about similar things. It's not like things that are completely random.
Have you dealt with those? Like, it's kind of like the Psalms. It's like you say what happened, what you felt in the situation, kind of the lies you were believing, and the truth.
Sure, I guess.
Like, because I believe if you work through the other ones, then it'll lead to some of those lies that you're struggling with, and the other ones will attach to these other ones. Because like, it's not like, oh, you know, I remember like everyone was praising me. No, you don't remember that. You remember painful. He was walking around alone, trying to find
But I didn't feel
Tim.
bad. Yeah.
Well, no,
that's what you.
That sounds like you're trying to not like not
feel too bad.
No,
I
because
just didn't know where Tim was.
You were confused, basically.
Yeah,
sure.
But maybe you don't know where I am now.
But just like triggers when you're like, why am I getting angry at this person?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Right?
Really?
Like
That's
from
not what
here,
your
you can
songs
say,
are
"Oh,
saying.
I'd be fine."
Why do you think they're about you? Is it because I say, hey Tim, before?
Hey, little Tim, it so sadly.
Wake up, Tim, wake, there's a monster! Don't be scared, Timmy, or he'll eat you. Monsters smell fear, looking for you. He's got a safety torch! Put it in my pocket, safety torch!
Oh my goodness.
Copyright.
Picture like a bowl filled with water, right? And you have like bottles, empty bottles with air in it.
I'm thirsty.
And you start pushing down all these bottles, one experience after another, and you have to.
Sounds like some voodoo
You
stuff.
have to hold them all down. This is your life, and this is like all the painful experiences, and you try to hold them all down, and you keep adding more and more bottles, but soon your arms, you can't hold all the bottles.
Why do they gotta be bottles, do you think?
And they start resurfacing.
Anything.
And you can't hold it all in, so they start resurfacing.
I have a big belly.
And you're like, why would I remember that or whatever? But it's just a touch of it coming out of the water. So you think about it, you know. But it's here, it's there, you know. Then you push that down, then you push this down, then you have like 10 bottles under your arms. You're trying to suppress it all.
I disagree.
So you think that one of the core things was you walking around the
that just was a random memory.
No, I know,
there's no
I know, but I'm
context there.
saying usually that would be one of the top experiences out of a deep.
It was.
Hold on. That would be one of the hurts from a core hurt that's hidden underneath, but that's just one of the popping ups from, like you were saying, like that totally
sure. Except that wasn't one of those situations.
No, it was. I don't know if it's the exact same memory, but
not.
I was reminded of a memory where I was hiding from you there. And you were like, "This isn't funny." You brought me to a place that I don't know.
I do remember that now.
And now you're hiding from me. And you were really angry after that.
I don't think that was the
angry
one I'm
at me.
remembering.
You were angry
because I completely forgot that existed.
Well, yeah,
exactly.
But you wouldn't remember it because if you're like me and most people, you suppress it as a kid.
I constantly.
So you express it. You know how to.
I'm a person who,
work through it.
when I act a certain way, I look at that action and I go, "What made me act this way?" And then I go, "Well, I was angry because they did this." And I go, "Okay, but what about them doing that made me angry?" And then I try to figure out why I felt that way. No, it's not a defense mechanism. Well, if it is a defense mechanism, it's a very healthy one because it's essentially me going, like tracing it back to go, what is the thing that makes me feel hurt? It's not what they specifically said. It's the feeling that I got from them saying it, and it hitting a hurt that I've had from before where I feel like some type of insecurity. And then I trace that back to probably an early childhood thing where I felt like alone. I don't want to share a story just because I don't want it to like be a negative thing that you guys are like, oh, Mitchie! But there is one specifically that I remember a lot of the time that is kind of a negative thing that I remember from when I was younger, of a thing that happened and really affected me. And whenever things would happen in the present or even somewhat past where a similar thing would happen, like I would be like, okay, I'll do it because otherwise this whole talk is not gonna make sense. So when I was really young, and here's the thing, I do not hold blame, but that doesn't mean that I don't hold feelings.
It's my fault.
Okay. Yep.
So when I was really young, my father used to come in and give us a kiss goodnight every night, right? And one night, I don't know why, but for one night, I was upset over something dumb, and when he came in to kiss me goodnight, I did that little kid thing of like, no, I don't want it, I'm not happy. And then he was like, okay, and then he left. But what happened is I remember, and maybe I'm remembering wrongly, but I remember like turning around and being filled with like instant regret and being like, no, come back. But he didn't hear me, and so I kept going. And then after that, I don't know if it was because of that circumstance or whatever, but after that, I don't remember him ever coming to kiss me goodnight after that.
Yeah, we're totally doing the, oh, Mitchie!
Right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, then as time went on, like, at different points, sometimes it's with my dad, sometimes it's with other people, but when there's similar circumstances of a person, where it feels like a person abandons me, even if they're not doing it intentionally. So, for example, I'll give you one example that is actually me being abandoned, and then one that isn't. So there's another time that it was at the time I'd broken my ankle, right?
Right.
And I was very upset with my dad for some reason, because I have lots of problems with my dad that I need to get over, essentially. And so I need to heal from that and forgive him in lots of ways. But I was upset, and because I was upset, it made him upset. And so I got out of the vehicle because we had just arrived home from somewhere, and I was using my crutches to, in the middle of winter, go to the porch, and then he drove away because he knew that he needed to calm down.
Right.
However, I can't get up the steps by myself with a broken ankle.
Right.
And so in that situation, I perceive that as, okay, he's abandoning me again, and it's drawing back to that thing. At the time, I was just upset about him doing that, but I was pulling from the feelings of feeling like he'd abandoned me, and even when I was calling for him, didn't care. Right. And so I like got up those stairs by myself, even though it was like slippery and icy and all that type thing. And like I had to like throw up my one like crutch and only use one of them, and use like the railing and like hobble and that type thing. And so I did it with like this like anger of determination.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I was calling back to the thing. And then here's another thing, and this is a less important thing, but it just goes to show you how you can, the situation doesn't matter, it's the thing underneath.
Yes.
So this is more recent. When I was working at Toys R Us hates you! When I was working at Toys R Us, I had specifically, because I really don't like it when I try as hard as I can to make plans, and then people forget about me. Because one, it doesn't make me feel like I am at all a part of their mind. And also, it doesn't make me feel loved, doesn't make me feel accepted, and it goes back to that very thing of feeling like they don't care and like they're abandoning me, right? And so what happened was, I had made an agreement with Chris that he would come and pick me up afterwards. And then I went, and it wasn't his fault, because he had accidentally fallen asleep because he'd had a huge, long day at work, right? And so I was on the bus back, and I was like trying to message him and be like, hey.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
I was like, hey, you there? Hey, you gonna be there? Hey, I set this up earlier, please be there.
Is that when you texted me?
And then that's when I texted you, and I was like, hey, Chris isn't here, and I'm about to be stranded in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
Which is, interestingly enough, a similar situation. And so then I was stranded there.
Winter again.
Yeah, and so then I was there because the bus came, and then Luke was also like, oh, I can't actually come to pick you up, which is another thing, which is like, oh, so now Chris forgot about me. Luke, I'm not his priority.
Abandons you.
Exactly. And so what happened is both, like,
and
Chris...
Tim drives from Ottawa to pick him up.
No,
what?
Tim doesn't care. No, what happened was, Chris, he ended up waking up and being like, oh, I just woke up. I forgot about you. I texted my dad. so he's gonna come pick you up. And then waiting outside for like 10 minutes, then Mark came and picked me up, and that type thing. But at that point, I'm a person who doesn't like feeling like a burden. Yeah. And a part of that's me wanting people to not see me as a burden and wanting to accept me. But it's very hard in those circumstances not to feel like a burden. So for Mark to have to go out of his way to pick me up and like not feeling like, and it's one of those things where I can understand in the situation where I would feel like I wasn't cared for or people didn't think about me enough for that type thing. But it definitely comes from those feelings from way like further down, from more of a childhood thing of like feeling like you want to be noticed and you want someone to pay attention and you are trying and they leave you because they don't think about you. You know?
I don't have feelings.
Or you don't have value. You don't have value.
Yeah. And so that's what I mean when I say like, yeah, you're right. But I feel like it goes to a further down thing. And so by saying that, I was answering your question of saying, I am a person who thinks deeply. So I do specifically think about these things and try to figure out the deeper things behind it so that I can either heal it or analyze and that type thing.
Well,
so yeah, it is a defense mechanism.
The process that they're teaching people is basically that, like connecting memories.
I'm smarter than
It's just you wouldn't have known that your whole life, right? So there would have been a time in your life when you didn't have that process that you would go through, right?
No, he didn't. Sure. He taught it himself, though.
I taught myself it, for sure.
Yeah.
But I definitely didn't realize that was where it came from. But I knew that was a hurt to me because I would have that memory and be like, oh, that is a thing I still feel bad about. I feel like this might have gotten too personal. Oh, 47 minutes, time to end it. Whoops, over.
Now that we're all depressed, we'll leave you all with this beautiful feeling.
We love you.
Please download this and listen every day.